I'm so happy to be here with all of you. Really honored to be asked to speak on this subject today. So, when I heard the global theme for the month of October, I actually had to go look up the word ethos because I needed to check that what existed in my mind matched reality. And also, in talking with people, I discovered that a lot of us have different interpretations of what this word means. So I got very excited to speak about this subject because it turns out that the definition in my mind does match reality, so that was good news already, but also because the definition reads like a one-line job description of my role in the business that I helped to build. So ethos is kind of my jam. It's kind of my word. It's about the characteristic spirit of a place, an era, a community, as manifested in its beliefs and aspirations. So I got even more excited about this subject because our town, our home, Asheville, got to choose this month's global theme. And I could not think of a better theme for our town to choose. And I say that in part because I feel like our story of building a business with a unique business culture happened in great part, because of the ethos of where it happened. So we're living in a time of great change in our little mountain town. And many of us here share concerns about the growth and some of the big city problems or challenges that come with it. The ethos of Asheville is hard to put into a couple of words because it's big. It's rooted in the history of the land. It's held by these ancient mountains that surround us, the river that flows through them. And it's woven through the stories of the artists, the farmers, the musicians, the craftspeople, and the entrepreneurs that are the bedrock of Western North Carolina. So to think about the ethos of Asheville, it incorporates all of that. It's all of those stories. So when I was thinking about why is this word so meaningful to me, and how does it relate to the fact that our town got to pick this word, I thought about the fact that my husband and I, 13 years ago, started a business together. And in the beginning, and for a long time, that meant that we were running operations together. And that's not an easy task for a married couple to navigate. So when things would get rocky between us through the years, let's just say I've written a couple of resignation letters to my husband. But he would always hook me back in. He's a really good salesman, that husband of mine. But the best line that he ever gave me to get me to stay was, "You can't leave. You're the wisdom keeper of this company." So I still write him resignation letters, but since that time, I tried hard not to confuse the list of daily tasks that I have to do for my job, like the never-ending sourcing of patio umbrellas, Eleanor, with what I'm really there for. What's my real job? And in my mind, I started to organize my primary principle of my job. I organized around the idea of being the keeper of our company's ethos. That's what I'm there to do. So I love this word. I want to think for a minute about I want all of you to help me in this. We're going to do an experiment. We're going to do an activity. I want you to think about the first word that comes to your mind when you think about the characteristic spirit of this town. And, or if somebody's watching from afar, whatever town you live in, think of the spirit of the place where you live. For the Ashevilleans in the room, I don't want you to think about the chaotic construction traffic on Highway 26 and all of the challenges of the day, like the constant influx of bridesmaids parties. Like, when did that become a thing in Asheville, downtown? Don't think about any of that. Think about, what is your favorite memory that happened? And is there a word or two that describes what's at the heart of that memory and where it intersected the place where it happened? Okay, now I want you all to take your phones out. Keep the volume off, but find your phone. And in a second, we're going to do a little activity. But don't do this just yet, okay? Ignore this for a second, because now we all looked at our phones and we're getting triggered by the things it's yelling at us to do. So don't do any of the things it's yelling at you to do. Just keep your phone out, and then I'm going to tell you a story to bring you back into the moment. Okay, so when I think about the characteristic spirit of this place, I think about shindig on the green on a balmy summer night in my first month in Asheville after relocating my family from California. I'm going to try to say this without crying. We're laying on a blanket, my husband and toddler and I, gazing up at the stars, listening to live music, and watching this circle form of old hippies, children, tourists from all over, restaurant workers, and people from all phases and walks of life join hands and share a square dance circle together. My shy 3-year-old little girl spotted another little girl in the crowd and quite uncharacteristically ran to her through the crowd, and they grabbed onto each other and they danced hand in hand all night long. That little girl became my daughter's very best friend. And now they're still soulmates. They're 20 years old, brilliant young women off in college. So when I think about the ethos of this place that we call home, I think about that moment. And it's not just the sweetness of these two soulmates finding each other in the crowd. It was the spirit of the environment that opened them up to find each other. Okay, so do you have your word? Or two? You're going to text this number, these words. And then you'll get a little prompt. And then you can text your word. And we're going to form a word cloud up here for what everyone thinks of when they think of the characteristic spirit of this place. Let's just absorb that for a minute. Love this. These are so great. I kind of want to, somebody take a picture. Molly, you got that? Those are awesome. Okay, so hold on to your word because we're going to come back to this. In my life, I've taken a few breathtaking leaps of faith. And lucky for me, all of them turned out to be the best decisions of my life. One of them happened, I believe in great part because of the ethos, because of this, of our town. In 2009, in the midst of a midlife crisis, sparked by the recession blowing up our jobs, my husband and I started a little Indian street food restaurant called Chai Pani in downtown Asheville. And I'll fast forward over all we went through to start that business because it's a whole story in and of itself. And I'll cut to the chase. Without any professional experience or training in how to run a restaurant, in the middle of the recession when the banks were all on lockdown and restaurants were closing all around us, we miraculously pulled it off. And it was a wild ride to say the least. But it was a ride made possible because of the spirit of the people that helped us build it. I'm seeing some of their faces right now, trying to not cry looking at them, because they were so there for us. Not just the people that helped us build it, but the community here that received us. I believe that the support of this community, which showed up for us when we had the most humble, fumbly beginnings. We learned everything about how to become good restaurateurs on the job. On our first day of service, we ran out of food after just a couple of hours of service, and we had to take the money from the register to have enough money to go buy product and supplies for day 2. I think we made it 1 hour later on day 2, and it went on like that for a little while. The community here is what held up our dream with a lot of support and forgiveness. And I believe that it is the support of this community that allowed this little improbable restaurant to find its way up onto a very big stage this summer, receiving that award for the most outstanding restaurant in America. I mean, what? What? The support of this place, the characteristic spirit of our people, carried us up onto that stage. And I believe that it is the ethos of this place that taught us a very important business lesson that's now one of our primary organizing principles. And that is really simply that you must have one. A business that has a clear ethos is more powerful and more impactful. And it doesn't matter what your business is, whether you're in the business of making food or spreadsheets or art. If you clearly define and organize around a strong, characteristic spirit within your company, within your business, it's transformative. And it not only is where the fulfillment can lie, it's also what provides the sparkle. It's what sets whatever you're making apart. So I think that what we learned for us, if we think about ethos as manifested in beliefs and aspirations, we learned to organize our company's culture around the belief that our people are our number one priority. And we aspire to honor that in everything that we do. So we are a people business that happens to serve awesome food, not a food business that happens to employ people. And that's our priority. But people are messy and complicated and not always easy to figure out. Our Asheville employees have a lot of feelings all of the time, sometimes relentlessly. But because Asheville is the foundation upon which our business's culture is built, that means feelings are welcome, and dare I say, even encouraged. We have to always learn how to express them with healthy boundaries at the appropriate time. But learning how to listen, my friend Annie taught me that. Learning how to listen and hold space for the feelings, that ended up becoming the scaffolding that has held up our business's growth. So we've grown that little Indian street food restaurant into this sort of blossoming mini food empire, really through that process of listening. That's now at the foundation of what we do. So when I think about how did our town, how did the ethos of this place teach us how important it is to have one? I've talked about the people being such a core component of that and informing what we do. But I also think the short answer to the question comes down to how we show up for each other here. I think about the welcome table over at Haywood Street Congregation that feeds hundreds of people every week, grounded in a mission with an idea that everyone in our community deserves a delicious meal made and served with love. No one is left out. If you ever need inspiration about humanity, go volunteer to serve lunch on any Wednesday at the welcome table. And I think about how our town, how our community showed up for us during the pandemic. In the very beginning, when we all had to shutter our doors and everyone was locked inside, it was pretty scary to not know when we were going to be able to come out of that mode. And in that time, someone from town pasted a love note in the shape of a heart on our door that said, "We miss you." Do you have any idea how that love note made us behind the scenes struggling to figure out PPP loans and the CDC protocols, how that made us feel? It was everything. Yay, beer's here. Beer delivery. And then when we reopened our doors, we had to open in takeout mode. And all of a sudden, everything was upside down, and our bartenders and managers were spending their entire days boxing food to go in paper bags. Our business is built on the idea of bringing people together. That's what we do. And the whole world had to stop doing that one thing. We had no idea how we were going to make it through, if we were going to make it through, and if we'd ever be able to see the version of the restaurant that we had originally built. In those darkest days, we got a letter in the mail. It was sent from 2 women farmers that live in the area and are regular customers. These women are not flush with cash, but they took the time to mail us a $50 check with a handwritten note that said, "For your staff." I mean, that is the ethos of Asheville. Heart first, practicality next. So our community showed us the way. They showed us with their support, once again, and their love. That is what gave us hope. Our town showed up and stood outside in the rain and the snow behind plexiglass barriers, wearing masks, to buy gift cards and order food. That sustained us. And it revealed to us that the spirit of this place is alive and well, despite the bridesmaids' parties and the traffic on Highway 26. The spirit of this community is strong. Our people are tenacious, and they live heart first. So when I think about how our restaurant found its way into this growth, and I think about how our town has fueled it and supported it all of these years, I think about this. I think about how we have a responsibility to protect this as we grow, as our town grows and changes. So as we wrap up our time here together today, I want you to remember the word that came to your mind. when you thought about the characteristic spirit of this place, of our home. Imagine what would happen if everybody here put energy behind protecting that which we love most about where we live. Imagine how powerful a movement that could be. All of these brilliant, creative minds. I wonder if that's exactly what our town needs in order for its spirit, its characteristic spirit, to be protected through whatever comes next. It's really hard sometimes to know what to do. We get numb from the bad news of the day and our busyness in all of our lives. But somebody here right now in this room could have the big idea that solves the housing crisis. But even when there's no big ideas, what this place has taught me is that it truly is the simplest of gestures that can become torchbearers to carry the spirit and what we hold most sacred about this place, to carry it forward. It's the love note on the door. And it's the lunch that we volunteer at the welcome table. And it's the moment that we put down our doom scrolling and call our local representatives and get out and vote. Yes! Those small gestures add up, and that is what will help keep what's most sacred about this place alive. I would not have wanted the ethos of our company to have been shaped by any community other than this one. Asheville not only encouraged us to have a strong company culture, it demanded that we have one. Our community would not have showed up for us in the way that it did if we didn't meet our community where they are. They expected us to have a strong ethos, and I am forever grateful. Thank you.